After visiting the EV Expo at Olympic Park yesterday, we stayed the evening at Gosford and had dinner at the Entrance, which is a beautiful part of the world. And we're on the road this morning. And first stop today is Colburn in the heart of the Hunter Valley wine region. And we had to stop for coffee, scones, jam and cream while we charged up. And next stop, Tamworth.
Of the Solidarity Movement and incarcerated them in what Greenfield prison camps.
Well, in the last few minutes, the nighttime curfew.
And here we are at the NRMA charger in Tamworth. Tamworth also happens to have Tesla superchargers, so it's great to have more than one option here for Tesla drivers. But yeah, great to have NRMA building the network as well.
So Rob, I've got a hard EV bingo question for you. A lot of people say EVs actually are more polluting than standard ICE cars, internal combustion engine vehicles. How are you going to answer that one for us?
Yep, Brian, that's a good question, and I think that comes from the fact that our grid currently is predominantly fossil fuel powered, so predominantly coal powered, and that's a really good question, and it deserves some analysis. So I haven't done the analysis, but other people have, and pretty much everywhere in Australia, electric vehicle is already cleaner than a petrol engine, except I think in Victoria where they're predominantly brown coal emissions, but even there I think it might be slightly ahead. Of course, it depends on what sort of petrol engine you're talking about. If you're talking about a really small, 1.6 litre, whatever, economical petrol engine, it's going to be different to a much bigger car. But yeah, EVs are already cleaner. And the beauty of it is that as the grid gets cleaner, as renewables go to 20%, 30%, 40%, and so on, the electric vehicle will actually get even cleaner over time, which is unlike most petrol cars, which tend to get dirtier over time as they wear out.
Yeah.
And here we are in Glen Innes, the last charging point that we're stopping at in New South Wales. Next stop, Warwick, Queensland.
We've discussed coal, Rob, and the benefits that it gave us, and you know, we need to do a transition from it. But there's always the thing about we need to transition people as well, transition jobs from the coal industry, mining, transportation of coal, etc., whatever, to renewables. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, Brian, I think it's true. Anyone who's worked in coal mining or coal electricity generation, they've had good jobs, good paying jobs, and to simply say, well, those jobs are going away tomorrow, that's just not fair on them and their communities. So a lot of people have started to work on and think about what's called a just transition. That is, how do we move our economy for those people to other jobs? So renewables do have a lot of jobs, and most people might be aware that mining doesn't actually employ very many people once the mine is built. They're highly automated, robotised, with massive pieces of equipment, and use very few people to actually do the mining. So I think mining jobs are a little bit, in the psyche of Australia, a bit overrated in the number of jobs that they are, although building a mine is actually quite labour intensive. So yeah, we do need a just transition, and fortunately there are people working on that, but I think there needs to be a lot more government effort put into that. People aren't going to want to change unless they can see a future for them and their families, and I think that's very reasonable. So we need to do more to work out what's next. And finally, back in Queensland at the Warwick Queensland Electric Superhighway charger. It's the latest charger in that network to be opened, and it kind of completes a bit of a hole maybe between Glen Innes and Brisbane. So it should be the last place we need to charge up again before going to the Gold Coast and then finally back to Brisbane. G'day, Rob from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia here. And that's it. We've completed our road trip, 8,327 kilometres roughly. with 14 days elapsed driving on the road trip. So in summary, first we drove from the Gold Coast to Cairns using state government electric chargers, which are around 50 kilowatts each. Takes about 45 minutes to charge up a couple of 100 kilometres. Then after a bit of a break in Brisbane, we drove from Brisbane to Melbourne for a solar conference. And then after that, we drove back via Sydney, visited the EV Expo, and then came back to Brisbane via the Gold Coast. On the way to Melbourne, we used the Tesla supercharger network, so they're roughly twice as fast. So generally we charge for around 25 minutes each time. And similarly, coming back to Sydney, we used the Teslas as well. For our final leg, we made it hard for ourselves. We came inland and used the NRMA chargers, and again, they were 50 kilowatt chargers, so it took 45 minutes or so to charge up. So I think we've shown you can travel long distance in an EV and do that fairly easily. We've never had a problem charging. We never had a petrol car blocking the charger, and only once did we have an electric vehicle charging, which delayed us a little bit until they completed. So a very long way to drive. Most people these days wouldn't drive a car that long, but we did it to show it can be done, and hope you've enjoyed the trip with us. If you'd like to see all the stats, have a look in the comments below this video. There's a spreadsheet which shows each leg, how long we travelled for, how long we charged for, and various other stats for the various legs. So please do subscribe to this channel. Also have a look in the comments and see some of our sponsors and supporters. You might like to support them as well. And leave us some comments. We'd love to hear your feedback. Bye.